What's going on, everyone? So, season 4 of From has been confirmed, although we could end up having to wait as long as 2 years for this season. Hopefully it's not, hopefully it's early 2026, but season 4 is not expected to be out till 2026, because we have a lot to unpack, a lot to unravel. Obviously with Tabitha and Jade, the aftermath of Jim, his death, the aftermath of Fatima giving birth to Smiley, right? The list goes on all of the things that they really need to unpack. I mean, there are so many questions, and I've mentioned this before. Like, at what point do you have so many questions you're never going to get all the answers to it, right? I mean, we have questions dating back to season 1 still, right? So it's just like, you really want to see things kind of unravel, get unpacked. But there is a rumor going around. Again, a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. Some people, I've seen people comment it and stuff and be like, oh, there's news that it's not news. It's a rumor. There's rumor going around that season 4 may be a flashback season. That season 4 may be a season that kind of explains all of, FROMVILLE and the monsters and, Tabitha and Jade and their past and their daughter and all that. And I don't know how I feel about that. Again, it's a rumor. Until we actually get confirmation from the studio, take everything with a grain of salt. But if this is true, I want to obviously unravel and unpack, the mysteries of FROMVILLE, mysteries of the village, right? Mysteries of the monster and all that stuff. And we're slowly starting to peek behind the curtain a little bit here. We're starting to get a little more information. However, I don't want the whole season, because we still have a lot of just modern time stuff that you need to unpack. If they were to do something where, say you have, the 10 episodes and, half of each episode or maybe every other episode was like a flashback season. It also depends on how they go about it, right? Because there have been shows that have done that, and some have been great, and it's brilliant, and it's fine, and it works, and then others have done it to where it's very, like, confusing, and it's kind of all over the place, and you're just kind of like, it's stupid, and kind of ruins, and then also you're running the concern of, okay, so you're gonna wait 2 years, or let's say best case scenario, let's say like February of 2026. So you're still talking like 14 months. So you're going to wait a year, almost a year and a half for us to get this new season. And then you're going to have this season be a flashback season. So we're not even going to get the answers with Julie and everything else, right? I like the idea of like the village, right? If we can go back in time to when the village was a thing. Obviously, see Tabitha and Jade when they were the original versions of themselves, because they're the reincarnated version as, time has progressed, right? Like, there's things that I look at and I go, man, like, that would be great to kind of unpack and unravel. But to do a full, like, the entire season, you're essentially pausing the progress that you've made to essentially do almost like its own thing, like, because again, I mean, obviously it ties in, so it's not like a spin-off or anything like that, but it is kind of like its own thing, which you could do a million spin-offs. Like, I wouldn't mind doing some spin-offs and stuff. I wouldn't even mind if you did like a spin-off where you explain the history of FROMVILLE, or you show the history of FROMVILLE. But there's another kind of question, and I want to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments about this, right? So, how would you feel if they never really explain what FROMVILLE is? Because I kind of go back and forth with that, and I've even, done live streams and stuff and talked to people about that, and the thing is that, when you start to explain a lot, like right now there is this mystery of FROMVILLE. What is it? What are the origins? And I'm not saying don't explain to us how the monsters became monsters and all stuff. I'm talking about FROMVILLE itself. Like explaining, it was, it's a pocket dimension or whatever, right? Like, I almost feel like you should just not explain what FROMVILLE is, just explain the inhabitants, right? If that makes sense. And then you could do like an origin story spinoff or something like that eventually for those that want it. Because again, like the fear and the mystery and stuff is in obviously the stories that they're telling, but it's also like, okay, well, what is FROMVILLE? Right? Obviously, I want the story itself to be unpacked. I want everything to be unpacked, but I think I'm okay with FROMVILLE not being explained. Maybe I'll do a more in-depth video on that independently, because I do want to stick with this kind of flashback thing. Again, I don't mind if it's something where obviously Tabitha and Jade have their memories. And I wouldn't mind if it's something where Tabitha and Jade are kind of relaying information, but we get it as visual, right? I think that could be interesting. I think that could be fun. But I don't want it to get to a point where it's like, okay, well, now we have to not only wait a year and a half to get season 4, but then we got to wait potentially another year to a year and a half for season 5 before we find out what happened with Julie. Where has she been? What's the story walking, right? Like, what's Boyd? And anybody that's in this modern time and all their stuff. Like, again, obviously, I want the Tabitha story arc in line. I would rather them make the episodes exactly an hour, or a little longer, and then just like explain what you need to like have video, like episodes, right? So like instead of just like a standard filler episode, right? Like it's actually the past. And it's actually like, oh, hey, here's Tabitha and Jade, and this is them back in that day, and you could use the same actors and actresses. I don't think anyone's gonna be like, oh, that's ridiculous. Like, no, like you could still keep things kind of in line and in order, but I don't want it to start to get all over the place. You know what I mean? Like that's my concern, is it starting to get, kind of convoluted, kind of getting like, okay, so we have an entire season that is nothing more than a flashback, right? And it's like, okay, well, what about everything else? What about all the other characters? What about, Boyd and his story? What about the aftermath of Fatima? Like, that's why I don't buy that. I can see them potentially doing something to where it's like episodes or half and halves, right? Like, so half of the season is flashbacks, half of the season is just modern times, right? Like, I could see something like that, but I don't want to see it be something where it's a little all over the place. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to see it to where it's like, oh, well, you're not going to get Julie's explanation until 4 years from now. It's like, what? If they're planning on doing more than just 5 seasons, then fine. Right? Because my other concern is that you begin to rush everything. Right? Like I said, there are so many questions that need to be answered. And then you add in that, like, all of the things about the past. Now, if you're just doing 5 seasons, and then you make season 4 literally just dedicated to the past, that means you only have 1 season to essentially answer everything in 10 episodes that are, 45 minutes long or whatever they are, right? Like, you have that long to basically answer in depth and detail every single question of this place. I don't know how you get there, right? You set up the man in yellow, lean into that hype, right? Like, I don't want the setup and establishment of the man in yellow, and then we just don't see him all season next year. It's like, well, that was pointless. Like, what was the point? So I'm not going to get to see him for 3-4 years. Like, it gets a little ridiculous at that point. So to me, I think stay the course. If you want to kind of have this mix and this mismatch or mix match, fine, so be it, right? But like, I think that they need to stick to the direction in which they're going, right? Like, I don't want a whole like all 10 episodes are basically just in-depth describing every detail, right? Like, I'd rather it just kind of be like, if you can't tell that story again through dialogue and then flashbacks in like 3 episodes, like I said, make the episodes an hour long if you have to, right? So you get an extra 30-40 minutes, right? And you should be able to tell the story that you need to tell about the past in 3 hours or 2 hours. I mean, you have entire like cinematic universes explained in 2 hours, right? You're telling me you can't tell a story about the past and how FROMVILLE began in 2 45-minute to an hour episodes, right? I would rather that personally. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Do you agree with my points? Disagree with my points? Do you think, no, like, I would love to have a flashback season? Do you think, no, like, you got to stick to the script, and then if you want to do some, like, flashback stuff, sure, go ahead, but you got to keep things in order. Again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I love to hear it either way, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out, so we enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.